And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. I know that this is an unscheduled live that I'm doing tonight, so I don't expect to get maximum participation, but I want to say thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Thank you for the love and support of last night's live that we did. We had almost 2,000 people in the live last night, and really appreciate you guys for the love and support. And I want to give shout outs to Godfrey, shout outs to my cousin Benea, Berean, who else? Also, my cousin Bishop Brown. Just want to give shout outs to also my cousin Pastor Jerry Carr, who I started this journey with. So I want to just give a couple of shout outs to those. But again, really want to thank you guys for last night. We had a great time, great participation. And so the reason why I'm doing this live tonight, and as you notice, I cut down on the intro because I really want to get straight into the lesson. So today is St. Patrick's Day celebrations. And so I really wanted to deal with this subject. I deal with it from time to time, but I want to deal with it again and stick to the end. Stick around all the way to the end because I got some additional information that I'm going to share with you. So some of you guys that may have seen this seen me do this teaching before, or some of this information before, stick around to the end. Stick around to the end. I have a major bombshell I'm going to share with you guys. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. I see it's 8:38 Eastern time. So I know that my cousin Benaya, I know he has a live coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we have this wrapped up by then, which we should. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it, family. And if you have any questions, just post it inside the chat at the end. Moderators, if there's anyone that's trolling, anyone that's posting things inside the chat that is contradictory, kick them out. If there's anyone that's posting sources that's unproven, kick them out. Anyone that's cursing, give them a warning. If they continue, kick them out. All right. We don't, and for those that may try to troll, trying to tell us not to believe in the, what is called the New Testament, moderators, give them a warning, but make sure that you give them a warning. And then if they continue, kick them out. All right. Because, if they want to take that or have those arguments, take it somewhere else, but not here. All right. But anyway, family, let's go and get into it. We have, let's see here. We have an hour and 20 minutes to play with. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the Negro Leprechaun Massacre, that's the title of this subject or the title of this lesson, the Negro Leprechaun Massacre. And it's interesting when you play on the word massacre, massa, cure, massa, cure, even though I know what the word means, but in Hebrew, massa or massa, oppressor. That's what massa means in Hebrew, an oppressor, causing trouble, causing problems. And then when you see the cure, C-R-E, I believe in the Celtics or the Celts, it refers to mud, so to speak. And then, but of course, when I look at it, just playing on the words, massa cure, so having these massacres to cure who? To bring peace to who? To take over for who? But anyway, the Negro Leprechaun Massacre. Let's start with Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. Hear the word which Yahweh has spoken to you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, do not learn the way of the nations, and do not be dismayed by their portents in the sky. Let the nations be dismayed by them. Verse 3, for the laws of the nations are delusions. Let me read that a couple more times. The laws of the nations, in other words, those other nations, are delusions. One more time. The laws of the nations are delusions, for it is the work of a craftsman's hand. He cuts down a tree in the forest with an axe. He adorns it with silver and gold. He fastens it with nails and hammers so that it does not totter. So Apostle Paul gave a stern warning, family. He gave a stern warning. Let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 4, starting at verse 1. It says, or it reads, I charge thee therefore before Yahweh and Adonai Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, who shall judge the quick, the dead at his appearing, and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant, in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering, all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come that when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. Let me just correct this slide right here real quick, because I know I'm going to teach it again. And I like to make certain corrections on the fly. This is only going to take a second here. And we're going to give clarity to the scripture, what Paul means in this text. But let me just do something real quick, family. Let me correct the slide. I like to have my slides to present a certain way. Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second. All right, let me just do something real quick. I just want to make a correction here. All right, let me take this here. And let's update it over here. All right. Just didn't like how that slides appeared. So I want to make sure my slides is up to date. All right. So let's do this again. All right, here we go. Just wanted to correct that. All right. So let's go back here again. All right. Let me see here. Still doing the same thing. Let me see something here. All right. If not, we'll keep pressing through. I thought I had the correction here. Yep. That's what it is. Let me fix this real quick. One last time. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it right now for the sake of time. But again, you guys saw how it reads. It says, I charge thee, therefore, before Yahweh and Adonai Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, which transliterates to Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing. All right. Let's see here. Did I leave it all in? I tell you, I'm messing around with this. All right. Yeah. There we go. All right. And then it goes on to say, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. We see that happening today. But after their own lust shall they heap to themselves. In other words, we see that today, social media, they're able to heap to themselves, pick and choose what teachers that they want to hear from that allows them to stay in a certain place. I call it the supermarket ministry. So, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. Verse 4 again, and they shall be turned away, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry. But that key is, it says, shall be turned unto fables. So what are fables? What is muthos, right? This is what it says. Muthos, a tale, an example, fiction, a myth. And we see here an invention of falsehood. So Paul is warning about the time which it already began to seep in during his time among the assembly. Many of the members or the people following the Most High started getting into tales, storytelling, right? Myths, fictions, inventions. All right. So again, a fable, muthos, is an invented story, a falsehood. So what is the origin of the fable St. Patrick's Day? See, Paul is making a warning. He made a warning for these type of holidays or days that's going to pop up, and the people are going to start acknowledging it. So what is the origins of the fable St. Patrick's Day? Yes, it is a fable. Let me prove it to you. All right. Even as Paul wrote these warnings, some false teachings had already seeped into the assembly. And so let's go to Exodus chapter 21, verse 16. I want to go here for a reason. It says here, and he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Quanop, right? That's steal, right? Go when you do the definition of this word, it means also steal away. So there's laws here that forbids stealing, kidnapping, raping people. And in Exodus chapter 21, right, just as you look reading the laws of judgment, right, when you get down to verse 16, it deals with kidnapping, stealing, raping people. This is where you get the word rapture from. All right. So let's deal with the Hebrew dictionary definition of the word steal. All right. Ganab, right? I think I said quanab. Excuse me if I mispronounced. I thought I can't remember if I said ganab or quanab, excuse me. But ganab is the Hebrew word for steal away. And it means to thieve. It means to deceive. It means to steal away, get by stealth. And we as a people, we've been stolen, right? They stole us. They deceived us, right? And they used all kinds of tricks to kidnap our people. So ganab, it means to thieve. It means to deceive, steal away, get by stealth. So think about this here. This is Lauren Nelson and her son, LD, who was raped and hung. And I'm going here for a reason, right? This is a mother and her son. And the reason why you see his pants down to his ankles is because both of them were raped. They raped him first in front of her mother. He was only like either 13 or 14 years old. But regardless of the age, that is a barbaric act to carry out. So I want to make sure that you guys understand. And that's right. Ganab means steal away. And there's a reason why our ancient Hebrew Israelite ancestors were singing the song "Steal Away." Go figure, steal away, right? In other words, take us back. When they say steal away, take us back to where you stole us from. All right. But anyway, but this is a mother and her son, her raped over missing food. Right. So I want to make sure you guys understand the savagery. All right. So here's another $200 for a dozen of our ancestors' ears. That's right, family. Your eyes are not deceiving you. I'll zoom it in so you can see. $200 for a dozen of our ancestors' ears. All right. Then you also had lynchings in the city. That's right, like New Jersey, Chicago, DC, Baltimore. You had they were hanging our ancestors like this. And many of you guys that are from the city, y'all know this is the fire escapes. You know, the fire escape that's sometimes is in the front of the building, can be on the side of the building, can be in the back of the building. But look at how they have our ancestors hanging from the fire escape here. So you had city lynchings. All right. So which leads me to this source here. I want to make sure you guys get it, have opportunity to take all these notes. But I want to go back to this source. I talk about it from time to time. I brought it up last night, and I want to just make sure I hammer this home. Slavery in the Catholic Church, to make sure we understand that the attacks, the wickedness, the brutality that was done against our people, guess what? They the people that the perpetrators of these behaviors, they are enemies. They are at war with our community, right? And this proves that the Roman Catholic Church, the Christian Church, which they all together, the Islam, Judaism, they all came together to form a crafty council to go to war and rapture, because rapture means rape, it means kidnap, it means take away, right? Our ancestors. So Papal grants to the kings of Portugal, giving authority to enslave the Saracens and other non-Christians of West Africa with whom Christendom is at war, 1452 through 1514. In 1442, a Portuguese captain brought to the Gold Coast some Moorish prisoners of war, exchanged them for 10 Negro slaves, and brought these back to Lisbon. A trading settlement was established at Lagos by 1444. It would appear that by 1452, the Portuguese were anxious to establish their property rights over the newly discovered West African territories. And so Pope Nicholas, Saint Nicholas, this is where you get Santa Claus, when you start looking at these names, Pope Nicholas, Saint Nick, right? Pope Nicholas V was approached and was apparently led to believe these territories of the Guinea coast was inhabited by Saracens and other enemies of Christendom. There is no other explanation of a series of papal documents which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war. That's the point I want to make sure you guys understand. It was a world war. And by definition, a world war is where you have all the major countries coming together to go against another nation, go against what they perceive to be a threat. And this was a world war. So, which applied the well-known contemporary rules of war to the situation in West Africa, whereas the Portuguese were well aware, the local Negro, the local Israelites, the local blood descendants of the ancient Israelites, the local Negro inhabitants were not Saracens, were not Muslims. In other words, they were not Arabs, they were not practicing Islam, and were not a threat, were not the enemies of Christendom. All right. So let's go further into this lesson here. Our objectives for this lesson is to really cover what is St. Patrick's Day, was the Irish slaves during the Transatlantic World War. We're going to deal with this. I want to make sure you guys understand these historic facts, because I know we hear it a lot of times, and I'm sure you guys have heard it before, that, hey, the Irish were slaves too. Well, we're going to knock all of those lies down, because we have to make sure that we don't allow others to tell our story. If we allow others to tell our story, we already know what's the ramifications in that. All right. So the true origins of St. Patrick's Day, right? This is coming from a Facebook post. And this is where you get this Irish were slaves to nonsense from a guy by the name of Daniel Wizard, right? And this is his Facebook post. And this is what he posted. Irish lives matter too. You know, whenever we say our lives matter, because we're the ones that are being slaughtered, we're the ones that are being slain. We're the ones that got all kinds of laws that we that are out there to try to supposedly protect or give us basic rights that others have the right to. You know, like being able to wear locks. So Irish lives matter too. So whenever you hear us say our lives matter, it's always other groups, other communities that want to put their stamp over what we're expressing, over our expressions. Like just right, like back in the 60s and 70s, black power. Guess what? White power. Those are the things that you would see, the behaviors, the patterns that you would see. But anyway, Irish lives matters too. 1625. The Irish slave trade began when 30,000 Irish prisoners were sold as slaves to the New World. The King James I proclamation of 1625 required Irish political prisoners be sent overseas and sold to English settlers in the West Indies. By the mid 1600s, the Irish were the main slaves sold in Antigua and Montserrat. Excuse me if I butchered the name. At that time, 70% of the total population of Montserrat were Irish slaves. Ireland quickly became the biggest source of human livestock for English merchants. The majority of the early slaves to the New World were actually white. From 1641 to 1652, over 500,000 Irish were killed by the English, and another 300,000 were sold as slaves. So now we're going to have to debunk this. I'm going to show you that this was an absolute lie, and I'm going to walk you through it. Let's walk this walk together, family. Let's go to the New York Times. Debunking a myth. The Irish were not slaves too. So this person at this time wrote this article to debunk this notion that Irish people went through the same thing that our people went through, that they went through cattle, which is also synonymous to chattel slavery. But this is what it says. Debunking a myth, the Irish were not slaves too. It has shown up on Irish trivia Facebook pages, and the sources what I just shared with you in the previous slides, in Scientific American magazine, and on white nationalist message boards. The little known story of the Irish slaves who built America, who are sometimes said to have outnumbered and been treated worse than slaves from Africa. But guess what? But it's not true. Historians say the idea of Irish slaves is based on a misreading of history. Let me say that again. Historians say the idea of Irish slaves is based on a misreading of history, and that the distortion is often politically motivated. Far-right memes, that's right, far-right Republicans, and I'm not defending the Democrats because they're just as bad as the Republicans, but so many of our brothers and sisters are now rolling and riding for Trump. Right. And that's another video I'm working on to show just how sick our people are as a people, how sick we are as a people. But anyway, far right memes have taken offline and are used as racist barbs against African Americans. The Irish were slaves too. The memes often say, we got over it, so why can't you? Right. You guys hear that a lot, right? We got over it, so why can't you? We hear that over and over and more and more. And this is where it stems from. A small group of Irish and American scholars has spent years pushing back on the false history. In 2016, 82 Irish scholars and writers signed an open letter denouncing the Irish slave myth and asking publications to stop mentioning it. Some complied. Now, notice what it says. Some complied. They sent this letter to all these major publications, and some complied, but guess what? Not all of them complied. You have so-called educators pushing this lie. All right. So some complied, removing or revising articles that referenced the false claims. But the letter impact was limited. The legal differences between indentured servitude and chattel slavery were profound. Let's make sure we understand that. It says here, legal differences between indentured servitude and chattel slavery were profound. According to Matthew Riley, an archaeologist who studies Barbados, unlike slaves, servants, this is what we're dealing with, indentured servants were considered legally human. Their servitude was based on a contract that limited their services to a finite period of time, usually about 7 years, in exchange for passages to the colonies. They did not pass their unfree status on to their descendants. So now you're starting to see some lines drawn between the difference of being chattel slavery versus indentured servitude. Okay. So as it says here, contract that limited their services to a finite period of time, usually about 7 years, in exchange for passage to the colonies. In other words, free transportation. They did not pass their unfree status on to their descendants. Contemporary accounts in Ireland sometimes refer to these people as slaves. Mr. Hogan said that was true in the sense that any form of coerced labor can be described as slavery, from ancient Rome to modern day human trafficking. But in colonial America and the Caribbean, the word slavery had a specific legal meaning. Let me say that again. But in colonial America, this is why we have to understand the word Negro. We have to understand that word Negro. There were laws in place specifically targeting the Negro. In the Caribbean, the word slavery had a specific legal meaning. Europeans, by definition, were not included in it. And indentured implies two people have entered into a contract with each other, but slavery is not a contract, said Leslie Harris, a professor of African American history at Northwestern University. It is often about being a prisoner of war or being brought or sold bodily as part of a trade. That is a critical distinction. Right now, these are some of the photos that you see floating around. These are some of the photos that you see floating around, trying to paint the picture that the Irish people, the Irish community, went through what we went through. And they try to paint it that in many cases, that it was worse. But let's go ahead and break these chains. Let's break these chains of ignorance that have been placed on our people. So Snopes, article by Snopes, and the title of the article is, does this photograph show Irish slaves in the United States? Right? Again, does this photo show Irish slaves in the United States? All right, so let's go to the article here. All right, and the photo that I shared, let me go back here. This is the photo. Let me go back here. Right, this is the photo that they try to show to say that Irish was cattle slaves. This is one of the photos that you see circulating. So the Snopes debunked it. Let's see what it says. A semi-official bilateral structure was set up in the spring of 1922 to channel Italian workers into the Belgian labor market. The Brussels Labor Exchange Office signed an agreement with the Italian, in other words, Office of Employment, to send masons and other skilled construction workers to Brussels. In the beginning of 1923, the Labor Office of Brussels erroneously obtained a number of unqualified Italian workers through this arrangement. The Labor Office contacted the mine companies in Charleroi, but I believe it's Charleroi, who were very eager to receive these Italians. This spontaneously established pattern of recruitment was endorsed by the Italian authorities. While the exact date and circumstances of the photo remains in dispute, but the picture, let's listen what it says about the pictures. The picture is not of Irish slaves in the United States because, in the United States, because from a factual standpoint, that form of slavery did not exist in America. And because from a contextual standpoint, the photograph does not appear to have been taken in the United States. So guess what? This photo is a fraud. But here's another photo that circulated as well, right? Here's another photo that circulated as well. So let's debunk this as well. Let's debunk this photo as well. The curious origins of the Irish slaves myth. And this is PRI.org. The curious origins of the Irish slave myth. Irish Americans were slaves once too, or so a historically inaccurate and dangerously misleading internet meme would have you believe. Family, the internet is dangerous. Family, you have to vet these sources, and as you see, I shared with you guys the source of this lie. The meme the meme comes in many varieties, but the basic formula is this: old photos, paintings, and engravings from all over the world are combined with text suggesting they are historic images of forgotten Irish slaves. The myth underlining the meme holds that the Irish, not Africans, were the first American slaves. It rests on the idea that 17th century American indentured servitude was essentially an extension of the transatlantic slave trade. Popular among racists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, and neo-Confederate groups, the Irish slave trope is often accompanied by statements to effect of our ancestors suffered and we got over it. Why can't you? According to Liam Hogan, a librarian and scholar who has tracked the myth, references to these Irish slaves are used to derail conversations about racism and inequality. We hear that all the time. And we're not just hearing it from the Irish people, we hear it from other people as well that's not part of our community. Again, used to derail conversations about racism and equality, especially towards our people. The principal aim of this propaganda, which aligns with that of the international far right, is to empty the history of the transatlantic world war, even though it says slave trade here, of its racial element, says Hogan. Here's another source. Reuters, fact check, Irish slave meme repeats discredited article. Notice what it says, family. The post that began by stating the Irish slave trade began when 30,000 Irish prisoners were sold as slaves to the New World. The King James I proclamation of 1625 required Irish political prisoners to be sent overseas and sold to English settlers in the West Indies. This is an edited version of the original article, which named the monarch in question as as James II, right? So this is debunking these lies. Now, and I'll go to the original article shortly here. The claim has been debunked by Hogan, who has said there was no evidence for the existence of such a proclamation and pointed out that James II was not born until 1633. All right. The post states from 1641 to 1652, over 500,000 Irish were killed by the English and another 300,000 were sold as slaves. Hogan, referring to the Irish diaspora by Andrew Billingberg, here told Reuters the total migration from Ireland to West Indies for the entire 17th century is estimated to have been around 50,000 people, not 300,000, not 200,000, but 50,000 people in the total migration from Ireland to British North America and the West Indies is estimated to have been circa 165,000 between 1630 and 1777. 1775. If this is the case, where on earth is the men getting the unequivocal and impossible 300,000 forced deportations from Ireland over a 10-year period? So this article is debunking. Reuters is doing a fact check on this notion that is being pushed. It goes on to say the Post also claims that Irish women and girls were forced to procreate with African slaves. Hogan writes that there is no evidence to support this claim. Go figure. Black men, white women notion, that fear that promoted so many lynchings. These ahistorical claims are part racialized, misogynistic fantasies and part old white supremacist myth. So sadomasochistic, excuse me if I butchered the name. So it says these ahistorical claims are part racialized, sadomasochistic fantasies and part old white supremacist myth. So this is saying that this is all part of white supremacy. These notions are part of white supremacy. It goes on to say the Post also states during the 1650s, over 100,000 Irish children between the ages of 10 through 14 were taken from their parents and sold as slaves in the West Indies, Virginia, and New England. There is no evidence to support this figure. In Barbados, where the majority of Irish indentured servants were sent, notice it says indentured servants were sent, the total number of white immigrants, indentured or free, by the early 1870s was estimated at 21,500. So this is saying all, not just the indentured servants who was there by choice on contract, and of course some as sentences, but we'll get to that in a second. But it says 21,000. So where did they get these numbers from? Notice the verdict here. False. Facebook posts purporting to describe the origins of Irish slavery are a rehash of a 2008 article consisting of numerous false claims. Let's go to another slide here. Another source. The Irish slave trade, the forgotten white slave, right? So now we're getting to the origin of where all these lies come from, right? This is getting to the source of it. Notice what it says here, right? And this is what it debunked. The Reuters debunked it and other fact checkers debunked this. But this is where they get it from. It says the Irish slave trade, the forgotten white slaves. But are we talking about African slavery? King James II and Charles I also led a continued effort to enslave the Irish. Britain's famed Oliver Cromwell furthered this practice of dehumanizing one's next door neighbor. So that's where this all comes from. But let's further knock this stuff down, family, because we're knocking down the lies of Irish being slaves, but we got to take it a step further. Let's keep it going. Let's see. I'm looking at the time here. We got 45 minutes here. So what role did the Irish have during the Transatlantic World War? Right now, we're going to use another source to give you clarity here. African and African American Studies, descriptive article, Early Modern History from 1492 through 1789. Economic History, Political History, World History, October 19, 2016. Now, notice what it says here, right? This was not an easy task, but these Englishmen did have a number of Irish prisoners serving what? Various sentences. Many of them were criminals, right? Serving sentences. They decided on a way for these Irish prisoners to work off their sentences on Barbados sugar plantation. They sent thousands of Irish indentured, they sent thousands of indentured Irish prisoners to Barbados, right? So again, it says that they sent thousands of Irish indentured to prisoners to Barbados. Now, let me see. Did I put more in here? I hope I didn't cut it short. Bear with me 1 second if need be. I may have to pull up another PowerPoint to put more information of this here. Let me make sure before I continue. Yeah. Bear with me 1 second, family. Let me see if I could get the rest of this here because it's not giving you the full info here. Let me do something real quick. I cut it short. I thought I had it all in here. All right, let me get to. Bear with me 1 second. All right, let me do something real quick. Let me fix this real quick because this is not giving you the full picture. I should have caught this. Let me see here. All right, I think this is it right here. All right, let me copy this over because the source is not giving you the information here. Let me make sure this, there it is. This is what I want. Let me copy this over because this, what I was just reading from, it's cut short tremendously. So it's not giving you the full info. So let me copy this over. And let me take this out. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, that was cut short. Let me do this again. Let me make sure that this slide is good. All right. Bear with me 1 second. All right, this should be good. All right, let me read this source again. All right, let's go back here. All right, this is going to give you more information because that what I shared initially didn't give you the full details. So here it is again. All right, this is giving you the full details. As a matter of fact, let me copy this in the chat so that way you guys can, at your leisure, you could go back over and vet the source, the sources that I'm sharing with you guys. So let me copy this over right now. All right, there is the link that I am quoting from. All right. Who is this? I'm just looking here, family. Moderators. Let me kick this craziness out of here. Moderators, don't let anyone go in here and start blogging, spamming the tool. I mean the chat. I just kicked out this person, Craig, who was posting a bunch of nonsense inside of the chat. Don't let people just post erroneous sources. I'm giving you straight sources of history and facts. So when you see someone posting stuff trying to undermine what this teaching is, moderators, kick them out. Don't even let them linger around. I just saw that Craig person who was posting a bunch of nonsense. I just removed that person out of the chat. Don't allow them to post any foolishness here. All right. So family, let's make sure that we get these people out of here. All right. So and I know that you guys have different schedules, but whoever that, if you catch this, remove them. All right. So I just dropped a link that I'm getting ready to read from, and I'll go back over. Matter of fact, when I in the description section, I'll post information on the links that I'm sharing that further debunks the lies that this person was trying to spam the chat with. All right. And just so happened, I just toggled over to post this link and I saw the lies that this person was posting. All right. So don't, again, any of the moderators, if you catch it, let me know, or you remove it. And any of those that are watching that are not moderators, if you see that anyone posting lies and foolishness like that, trying to undo the lesson that's being taught, let me know. And then that way I can get them out of here. All right. So let me post this link again. This is the link that I'm getting ready to read from to further knock down the lies that person was trying to spam inside the chat. So the Englishmen who wanted to engage in this business had to decide who to send to Barbados to grow, harvest, and process the sugarcane into refined sugar. This was not an easy task, but these Englishmen did have a number of Irish prisoners serving various sentences. They decided on a way for these Irish prisoners to work off their you know what? Let me do something real quick. I see a problem here real quick. Let me correct this. Bear with me 1 second. I see a problem here for some reason. I didn't catch it. All right, let me stop this real quick. Let me stop the share because it's moving it should not be doing what it's doing. Let me do something real quick. All right, let me stop this here real quick. Let me stop the share. All right. And let me do this real quick. Let me fix this. All right. All right. I needed to clear the cache because the lesson was actually moving on. The slides were progressing on its own, and that's because I used this in previous presentations. All right, let's try this again. All right. All right, family. I'm not sure why the link is not linking, but just copy the link down. If not, worst case scenario, I will have this inside the description box. So if you're not able to get it from the chat, it'll be inside the link. All right. It'll be inside the description box. All right. So we got about 40 minutes to go. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. So let's try this again. The Englishmen who wanted to engage in this business, had to decide who to send to Barbados to grow, harvest, and process the sugarcane into refinement. This was not an easy task, but these Englishmen did have a number of Irish prisoners serving various sentences. Now, I want to make this clear. They were not serving like they were cattle slaves. That's why I want to make sure you understand this. They decided on a way for these Irish prisoners to work off their sentences on Barbados sugar plantation. They sent thousands of indentured servants, indentured Irish prisoners to Barbados between 1627 and 1807. More than 400,000 Africans mainly originated from West Africa. So let me read this part again. They sent thousands of indentured servants or indentured Irish prisoners to Barbados during this time frame. And we're looking at 1627 through 1807. So we're looking at almost 2 centuries. And again, it was over a total of 21,000 indentured and free Irish in this area. So that knocks down these numbers. Now look at the real numbers that I really want to focus on. Thousands, which, again, 21,000 total, and most of them were free. They weren't indentured, right? But anyway, we see 400,000 here. So between 1627 and 1807, more than 400,000 Africans, mainly originating from West Africa, have been brought to Barbados as slaves to work on sugar plantations. Again, it's totally different. As I read from the Times article, New York Times article, there's a difference of being indentured and also cattle slaves. Totally different. The English planters would request and receive more slaves whenever they believed they needed more for the plantation. The Africans were viewed as nothing more than interchangeable machine parts in the process of sugar production. In other words, they had graves. They found one down in Texas a slave burial with a ton of slaves there with bodies that was mutilated by these the sugar machines, sugar cane machines or whatever. They were being mutilated by it. So if their arm get ripped off by this machine, guess what? They tossed them aside and put another one in their place. You will not find any of this occurring to these Irish indentured servants. So the Africans were viewed as nothing more than interchangeable machine parts in the process of sugar production. The treatment experienced by the Africans was among the most inhumane in human history. It was not, and I want to reiterate it was not those Irish indentured servants that was operating these machines. They were not dealing with this part of the rigorous labor that our ancestors were forced into. So starting in 1640, Africans were thought of as inferior to Englishmen. Africans were not thought to have the capacity to be intelligent. In consideration of how dark skin color was defined as life of lesser value than light skin color, legal codes naturally evolved out of these attitudes. All right, now let's go back to 1 Timothy, right? And let's see what this says again. Let's go back to verse 4, chapter 1, verse 4. Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogy. This is a key that I want to make sure we deal with. The fables, we already dealt with the lies, but also we want to see what Paul meant about endless genealogy, right? So we hear that a lot when many would talk about, here's talk about identity. This is what they want to tell us. Matter of fact, let me do something here. It looks like my slide didn't progress. Family, apologies for the technical difficulties. Let me share it again. You know, it never fails whenever you think everything is running smoothly. Things go haywire, right? Doesn't go as planned. So my apologies, family, if you didn't catch the slides, if it didn't progress like it should have, because I corrected it on my end, but it didn't show. It looked like it was locked a little bit, or I froze on your end. But anyway, Paul talks about neither give heed to fables and endless genealogy. Let's give clarity to what he means, because Paul several times made it clear that he is a Hebrew Israelite out of the tribe of Benjamin. He made it clear that he is descendant of Abraham. So is it a contradiction? Is he writing here a contradiction? No, because he said fables. In other words, fictional stuff, endless genealogies. Here's an example of that. Remember, the word fable means mythos, an invention. All right, remember that. So now let's go to facts, myths, and traditions of St. Patrick, right? So now we're going to deal with what Paul actually meant. In other words, making up lies and creating genealogies, creating traditions based off that lie. So St. Patrick's Day 2014 facts, right? Now, let me see if I could copy this over into the chat for you guys, so that way you guys can have this as a source to vet the information that I'm posting. All right, let me drop this in there real quick. And again, my apologies for, I thought I had my slides in order tonight. All right, here's another slide, link right here, a source here. All right, let's continue. All right. So let's go back here. All right. Facts and myths and traditions of St. Patrick, right? And this is what Paul is referring to. This is nothing but lies. That's what Paul is really referring to about endless genealogy, fables, lies about, about history, lies about genealogy, lies about bloodline. Since snakes often represent evil in literature, when Patrick drives the snakes out of Ireland, it is symbolically saying he drove the old evil pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age, Freeman says. The snake myth, the shamrock story, and other tales were likely All right. And we'll finish this off here in a second. So snakes, and I want to make sure you guys all remember what he said here. Snakes, what? It says snakes often represent evil in literature. So snakes often represents evil. Okay. Let's go back to this article. Let's continue. I just wanted to highlight that real quick. No snakes in Ireland, because that's what this fable is based upon. Genealogy. This is what Paul was talking about. Fables and endless genealogy, because now this is part of the heritage. This is what's being celebrated in the church today. No snake in Ireland. Another St. Patrick myth is the claim that he banished snakes from Ireland. It's true, no snakes existed on the island today. Luther College's Freeman said, but they never did. Why? Because Ireland, after all, is surrounded by icy waters, much too cold to allow snakes to migrate from Britain or anywhere else. So it's making it clear that because of the elevation of Ireland, it's impossible for snakes to live and migrate through those icy waters. All right. So no snakes existed on the island today. Luther College's Freeman said, but they never did. In other words, they never existed in this territory. So let's go back here. Again, since snakes often represent evil in literature, when Patrick drives out the snakes out of Ireland, it is symbolically saying he drove the old evil pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age, Freeman said. The snake myth, the Shamrock story, and other tales, right? So now he's making it clear that these are tales, these are lies. So let's go back again. It says it is symbolically saying he drove the old evil pagan ways out of Ireland and brought in a new age. So let's look at this word pagan, so that way we can really dissect this, what this writer is saying, and put things in its proper perspective. Let's see what pagan means, right? Let's deal with pagan. Let's deal with pagan. Let's deal with pagan right here. All right. And I know you guys are going to be surprised here. Let's deal with the word pagan. Words have meaning, family. So pagan, right? It says person of non-Christian or non-Jewish faith, villager, rustic, civilian, country people. Now, this is giving you more in depth of understanding of this word. Pagan and heathen are primarily the same in meaning, but pagan is sometimes distinctly applied to those nations that, although worshiping false gods, false deities, are more cultivated as the Greeks and the Romans, and heathen to uncivilized idolaters as the tribes of Africa. A Mohammedan is not counted a pagan, much less a heathen. So what this is telling you here, in most cases where you see the word pagan, they're dealing with Caucasians. They're dealing with the Greeks. They're dealing with the Romans. They're dealing with the Mohammedans. They're dealing with all of those that they consider to be civilized, even though they did not believe in what they believe in the scriptures. But they still refer to them as being civilized. The uncivilized, they refer to as heathen, right? This is why when you see that word heathen in the transliterations, they're pretty much dealing with our people, heathen to uncivilized idolaters as the tribes of Africa. So pagan, the civilized non-believers, and heathen, the as they have it here, uncivilized. Kind of have the Willie Lynch feel to it. So I want to make sure that you guys understand this. All right, from their perspective, this is how they define pagan. This is how they define pagan. So as you see here, they did not count Mohammedans as what? Heathen. They did not count Mohammedans as a pagan, much less heathen. Right? So I want to make sure you guys understand this. All right. So family, I'm kicking someone else out here because I'm showing a source here. And this person was trying to basically post their opinions. So moderators, if you see people doing that, trying to say what something actually means, and I'm showing a source here, kick them out. Kick them out. I just caught it just now. Kick them out. So you see here, when it comes to the Negroes, when it comes to the African territories, right, countries, that they refer to, instead of using the word pagan, they'll use the word heathen as a distinction or delimiter, so to speak, to show who's civilized and who's not civilized. All right. But anyway, let's continue here. Okay. So pagan means people who do not follow Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. So even though Mohammedan, Islam, so to speak, does not fall up under pagan or the word heathen, right? But it still ties in to show that pagan is referred to those people who does not follow Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, and heathen the same, but that is referring to African countries for the most part. All right, as we shared here. So if St. Patrick's did not drive out snakes, what did he drive out? That should be the question. If he did not drive out snakes, because it's proven that snakes were not driven, did not even exist there, what is it? What is it that they drove out? All right, let's break this down. What is it that they drove out? Let's use this source here, Journal of Royal Institution of Cornwall, Footprints of Vanishing Race in Cornwall. Now, this is going to give you clarity of the subject that we're dealing with tonight. In other words, the Negro, the Negroes that were, in a nutshell, that was murdered there. We're going to deal with a massacre. All right, and this source is going to prove it. Here we go. I'm just peeping out into the chat, family, just to make sure no craziness is being posted. But let's go ahead and deal with it. All right. I believe that the first human beings who entered Cornwall in the Neolithic period belonged to a race of dwarfs or pygmies and were veritable little people. This is where you get the word leprechaun from. The study of dwarf races is a new branch of anthropology, and it was wonderfully developed during the last 20 years. Ancient classical authors mentioned pygmies living in remote parts of Asia and Africa, and the conflicts of the latter with the cranes are described in amusing language. These stories were for long thought to be childish inventions. Now, when you see the movies like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, this is telling you that it was thought to be, just fairy tales. But they're like that old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now they're finding out that, hey, wait a minute, these are not just stories. These stories were for long thought to be childish inventions, but recent discoveries have proved that they were perfectly correct. When the Dutch occupied South Africa, they met with the dwarf Bushmen, who are the smallest pygmies in the world. The Spaniards also had become acquainted with the Adas and the Mamanaos, excuse me if I butcher the name, dwarf races of the Philippine Islands and Europeans before long discovering the dwarfs of the Andaman Island, or actually Andama, I'm butchering the name, Andaman Islands. But as we see here, look at what it says. Dwarf is telling us about dwarf races on the Philippine Islands, but then it goes on to say Europeans before long discovered the dwarfs in Andaman. I don't want to know why. I don't know why I want to keep saying Anna, but Andaman Islands, who are also known as mini copies or min copies. In Africa, new dwarf tribes were constantly being found, such as the Sokos. Mr. R.G. Halliburton has traced the pygmy races into Morocco, Spain, and long ago, Jacob Grimm concluded from the traditions of elves, gnomes, trolls, current in Germany, that dwarf races inhabited Central Europe in prehistoric times, and Professor Nielsen has come to the same conclusion concerning Scandinavia. So what are they saying here? Let's break this down. Let's further read from here. I would apply these conclusions these conclusions to Cornwall, we have our legend of Piskies, fairies, little people, as these stories are now understood in Europe to refer to a real race of prehistoric dwarfs. So they're saying it's not these Piskies, fairies, little people. They're not just stories. These are not just fables, but they are actually real people. So I believe we may understand them with reference to Cornwall. I believe then that our Piskies and fairies were genuine Cornish dwarfs belonging to a real race of diminutive human beings. As to the fairies, they have a similar origin. They were not the dethroned gods of the heathen Celts, nor were they the spirit of unbaptized children or of druids who had who rejected Christianity, but they were originally dwarfs and pygmies, similar to the Piskies. So they're making it clear, those hobbits, these stories that you see, that it wasn't fairy tale. These were not fairy tales. These were actual people that occupied these territories. So this fairy tale, these fables of St. Patrick, killing snakes. No, they were actual people. They drove out actual people, family. Just want to make sure you guys understand this. They drove out actual people. They murdered actual people. And we're going to prove who these people are here. All right. So let's go to another page within the source. It goes on to say, it has shown that the Picts House of Scotland and fairy legends of the North may be traced to a race of prehistoric dwarfs that able Celtic scholar Professor Ries has lately in a valuable work set forth the view that a dwarf race inhabited Britain previous to the Celtic invasion. And these views have met with general acceptance. This also will explain the tradition existing among the French peasantry that the fairies were mortal, and the stories that long ago they were actually killed in Wales. Cornwall then was in the early days of the Neolithic age inhabited by a race of pygmies like the Bushmen of South Africa, and whom for convenience I shall call the pesky dwarfs. The diminutive flint arrowheads found all over Western Europe furnished another proof of existence of these pygmies. These little arrowheads occur in France, and it says some only half an inch long, being figured by M. de Mortale. They have been found in a kitchen midden at Hastings. Excuse me if I butchered it. They have been found in a kitchen midden at Hastings. They abound in Ireland. All right. So again, this is making it clear who these people are. But let me go ahead and give you another source here. Before we move forward, let's deal with this word leprechaun real quick. Right. Of course, they added more to it since they published this, the original publishing of this. That's why I encourage you guys to, make sure you purchase your hard copy of the etymological dictionary so you can see how they're making changes over time. But nevertheless, this word leprechaun, as you see here, it means a very small body, small, right? A very small body, little, small. That's pretty much what leprechaun means. Little people. All right. Leprechaun means little people. And if you have a chance, and I'm not going to show it tonight because I got bags all under my eyes from being up late last night. So, but the Bart Concise Dictionary of Etymology, the origins of American English words, right? You'll see in there the word leprechaun and other key words, how more and more when we look at it from then to now has been added. They've been modifying and changing certain key definitions. But if you go here and if you purchase this book, you'll see the original input for this. All right. And I'll read it from the actual book. All right. And it lines up to what you see with the exception of what was added to it. It says here, borrow from the Irish. It goes on to say, it says body. Yeah. Little people. Yeah, so it says little, little corp. So it says little plus corp, in other words, body. So little body. So the original word leprechaun means little body. All right. And so that's what you see here, where it says a very small body, little small. So that's what it's referring to. All right. Little body. All right. So, and again, as it says here, recently they've been tying this word looper to Lupercalia. All right. But I'm not going to go into all of this. But let me go to a key source here. Right. Celtic myth or Celtic myth and legends. Let's see what it says here. As it's on your screen, page 20. This is giving you the original parents of the Irish people, the original people that occupied these territories that was murdered. All right. Now, notice what it says here. It says here, in physique, it was short, swarthy, dark haired, dark eyed, and long skulled. Its language belonged to a class called Hamitic, the surviving types of which are found among the Galas, Abyssinians, Berbers, and other North African tribes. And it seemed to have come originally from some part either of Eastern, Northern, or Central Africa. Spreading thence, it was probably the first people to inhabit the Valley of the Nile, and it sent offshoots into Syria and Asia Minor. So this is coming from this book called Celtic Myth and Legends. So it's letting you know the original people there, the original Irish people, the original before they were murdered, before they were killed off. It says physique, it was short, swarthy, dark-haired, dark-eyed, and long-skulled. So these were not Caucasians. These are not what we see today. All right. So that's what this is saying here. The people, St. Patrick, right? The Catholic Church, their people actually drove out. It was the Twa, right? Even though that's not their original name, but that's the name that the Europeans named them. All right. So we see here, let me kick this knucklehead out of here. All right. All right. So, so you see here, they would, as you see here, Twa, right? They were, and here's the image of the original people. They, this is where you get the term dwarf. This is where you get the term hobbits. This is where you get the word leprechaun, which simply means little people. This is where they come from. This is who they're referring to. This is who St. Patrick, even though that's a made up person, right? The face of Catholicism, the Catholic Church, right? For this particular tragedy, this is who they murdered. This is who they wiped out of that territory. So who are the Irish? We're going to close out with this right here. We got a few more minutes. All right. Who are the Irish? Now, family, I know you guys you're probably not going to be surprised. But who are the Irish? Who are the Irish? That's right, family. The original Irish people that was there, they were Hamitic people. They were murdered. They were, this is where you start dealing with genocide. But let me deal with the Irish now. Let's wrap up with the Irish. Who are the Irish people? Who are they? Here it is. What tribe of Japheth did they descend from? Here it is. Notice what this says here. The Scythian family. Wait a minute. The Scythian family? Wait a minute. We just proved that the Vikings are connected to the Scythians. We just proved that the Ashkenazis, Scythians, the Khazars, Scythians, Magog, Gog, Scythians. So we see the savagery of this group of people that invaded this territory and murdered the original people there. And we'll just use the term Twas. So the Scythian family, and this is coming from the Library Ireland, and I'll let me drop the link real quick, and you guys could further vet the information as we get ready to wrap up. So I want to make sure we have you guys have time to, as well as myself, to support my cousin Benaya. All right, let's go ahead and do this real quick. All right, let me just do something real quick. Let me move this up here. Let me drop this link. I got other sources, and that's why I was a little late, because I was adding this here. All right, I went on to drop that link there so that way you guys can vet what I'm reading. All right, I know you guys like, not the Scythians. Yeah, family. Yeah, so we have to be careful when people tell us not to get caught up in discussing genealogy, taking Paul's words out of context. No, we have to pay attention to the origins of who's who. So as the Malaysian or Irish nation is descended from the Scythian family, it may not be out of place here to give a brief of Scythia. Japheth, son of Noah. Noah was the ancestor of the Scythians. The name Scythian was applied to those nations who displayed skill in hunting and the use of the bow. In his dictionary, Dr. O'Brien states that the word Scythian is derived from the Celtic word siad or skiad or siad, which in the Irish language signifies a dart or arrow. And this derivation seems probable, as the Scythian nations, particularly the Parthians, were all famous archers. The Greek colonists of the north of the Euxine or Black Sea, hearing their Scythian neighbors frequently call archers, shooters, and hunters, who were very numerous among them, by the name of Scudi, Scythi, Shutin, or still pronounced the same way, Shutin or Shutin, each of which signifies Scythians. Applied that name to the whole nation. This word, or rather its ancient primary significance, is still preserved in the English, German, Lithuanian, Finnish, Livonian, Kurlandish, Laponian, Estonian, and Prussian tongues. A fact which goes to prove that all these nations are of Scythian origin. Wait a minute. Didn't we just talk about this Thursday night? Notice what it says. The English, right? Now we're dealing with the Vikings and all of that. The Germans, Lithuanians, the Finnish, Livonians, Kurlandish, Laponians, Estonians, Prussians. We could go down the list, family. All of these people are part of the Scythians. So, family, when we deal with the original Irish people that was there, they were Hamitic people. And guess what? They were murdered by the Scythians. And that's what this day is truly celebrating. We'll stop right here, family. My apologies for the slide being all over the place. And apologies for butchering some of these words, a few of these words here, but my apologies, family. But we made it through it. So, family, that's why I say it's so much to go through. It's so much to go through. It's so much, man. We've been told so many lies, family. So many lies. So many lies. And we see that group Scythian, it's really like the glue to all these groups. They're like the glue to all these different groups to give us further clarity. So, family, I know we have like 7 minutes left, and give you an opportunity, enough time to be able to transition over to Benaya's channel. He's going to further deal with the eclipse. So again, family, my apologies. I thought my presentation was in place. So at the last minute, shifted it around and threw some stuff in here, some additional information here. So again, family, go back over the lesson. I will post these links and sources inside the comments. Inside the description. But I encourage you guys to watch this video again, and just so that way you have clarity. So when you hear people say, or some that will try to say Irish were slaves too, that is an absolute myth. And someone is asking for this name of this book. Let me put the name of the book inside the chat for those that are interested. And like I said, I'm going to put this inside the description box as well. Here we go. All right. All right. There you go. So it's called Journal of the Royal Institution of Cornwall, Footprints of Vanishing Race in Cornwall. So that's going to help you. That's the book that I quoted from. And the source that I highlighted is in the chat, dealing with connecting the dots with the Scythians being connected to the Irish people. And it's the Irish source, right? So if we go back here, let me just post that link again. For those that want to know what it is, here's that link. All right, here's that link again that I mentioned. All right. So where there's smoke, there's fire, family. When there's smoke, there's fire. So especially when we look at the history of the Catholic Church, when we look at the history of the Christian Church, when we look at the history of the Muslims, the history of Judaism and all that, we see, or I'll just say name stealers, we see all of them have commonalities in their characteristics, especially when it comes towards our people and other people that have dark melanated skin that originated in the continent of Africa. Of course, we're Shemitic people, but you also have the Hamitic people that are there as well. And there's a certain approach that they have. There's a certain temperament that they have, towards our people, towards all people of dark melanated skin. So again, the Scythians, that is the glue to all of them. All right. So my apologies if this lesson seemed a little bit rushed, and that and also again for fumbling over some of the words. But again, I hope and pray that this helps you. And I will drop the link, and I will drop these sources inside the description box. Hit the like, family. If you haven't clicked the like, click on that like button. This is how we further press beyond the craziness of the YouTube trying to suppress this channel. So I'll just encourage you guys to go ahead and click the like. Also subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. If you think that you are subscribed, right? What I want you to do is double check, because sometimes YouTube, what they've been doing is unsubscribing our followers. So check it to make sure that you are still subscribed, and also share the video. If you have a Facebook channel, share it on your Facebook. If you have a YouTube channel, share it on your YouTube. Share the information, share the link, share the sources. So with that being said, family, without further ado, don't want to hold you guys up anymore. So let's go ahead and wrap it up here. But in the words of Yahweh that he gave to Moses to give to the children of Israel in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, as they came to what seemed to be an impasse, as it appeared to be a dead end. The Most High gave Moses these words to encourage the Israelites. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, They will never have power over you again. You will not see them again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. The Hebrew word that you see there is charash, which means be quiet.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel.